You know, it's been a while since we've talked about the most hyped up Montreal Canadiens prospect from this season. And with the announcement of Team USA's roster at the IIHF World Championships, we have ourselves an opportunity to talk about him once more. And it's great this time because we don't even need to talk about only this player. We also have ourselves another conversation about another Montreal Canadiens NCAA small guy that is a really great prospect too. So, without further ado, let's head over onto Team USA's Twitter account because the other day they tweeted out the men's national team for this year's Worlds. If you take a look at the roster, you can see on forwards you have yourselves Anders Bjork, Nick Bonino, Matt Coronado, so very nice to see there, Coronado getting the representation. Sean Farrell, so there is our Montreal Canadiens guy. Conor Garland, Cutter Gauthier, Carter Mazur, so Red Wings prospect, great to see him there. Drew O'Connor, Luke Tuck, Alex Tuck, TJ Tynan, and Sammy Walker. Now, it's kind of unfortunate because the only player here that's actually like a star is Alex Tuck, I guess you could say. You also have Luke Tuck, Montreal Canadiens prospect, brother of Alex Tuck, who is over here too. We could talk about Luke Tuck, but honestly, his profile hasn't really been too attractive in comparison to the other guys, Farrell and, of course, Lane Hutson. If you go over to defense, Ronnie Attard is here, so is Hutson, Connor Mackey, Nick Perbeck, Scott Perunovich, Dylan Sandberg, and Henry Thrun. And then for goalies, you have Comesso, Casey DeSmith, and Cal Peterson. There's only really two guys here, three maybe, that are actually like legit okay to good NHL players, and I would say that's probably Nick Bonino, Conor Garland, and Alex Tuck. Everybody else is kind of just, I mean, it's a Team USA at the World Championships. You're not really going to get the best roster out there, especially when a lot of these guys are in the playoffs right now. But I did want to focus on the two main Canadiens prospects. Sorry, Luke Tuck, you can get your time to shine in another video, but for now, I wanted to talk about Sean Farrell, and I wanted to talk about Lane Hutson, because when it comes to both of these guys, they had such good seasons in the NCAA that I think it's going to be super cool seeing them potentially share a power play or share some extra time together and have that chemistry built up on the roster before heading over to the Montreal Canadiens sometime down the line. Now for Sean Farrell, let's start with him because he's a little bit older. 21 years old, 5'9", 174, left-handed guy, center left wing. He signed his ELC earlier this year, and we already know that he played with the Canadiens, he was alright, he scored a goal, and the timeline is set up for him to either play on the Habs next year or probably spend the year with the Rocket, who really knows. There's going to be a multitude of options for Farrell, but this recent season in the NCAA playing for Harvard, 34 games played, 20 goals, 33 assists for 53 total points. He was one of the top players in the NCAA for points. If you go over to the entire league, you can see that Farrell was 4th overall, just behind Colin Graff, Logan Cooley, and Adam Fantilli. So super cool to see Farrell go out there and get himself that recognition. For Farrell, his entire playstyle is kind of defined by what we had seen with him in the Canadian sweater at the end of the year. Hard-working, feisty, he's got a really good bite to the way that he's able to traverse around the offensive zone and just make opponents' lives difficult while also providing top-tier skill and point production abilities. Now, sure, he only had 1 point in the sample he had with the Canadiens, but I mean, come on, the guy just made his debut coming in at the end of the year. The Canadiens roster is mostly Laval Rocket anyway, so it's not really like it was the best position for anybody to come in here and start producing points like crazy, but at the end of the day, Sean Farrell boasted up such a good profile for this season's worth of play that it's worth mentioning when you talk about Canadiens of the future. Now, when it comes to how he's going to be able to produce at this tournament, well, Farrell did have himself a good chunk of representation in the past. Last year, he played for Team USA at the World Championships, 6 points, 10 games, definitely not bad for a guy who was 20 years old at the time, and he also suited up for Team USA at the Olympic Games too. He was over a point per game too. Everybody was talking about Juraj Slafkovsky and how he was doing so well at the World Championships and the Olympics that it's kind of easy to forget that there was another Canadiens guy that did the same thing pretty much, and that was actually doing it at a much smaller frame. He is only 5'9", so the skill sets here are a lot different. Farrell has polished up other parts of his game, but ultimately, if you like that Paul Byron, Brendan Gallagher sort of mold, a guy that's just super hardworking and also productive offensively too, then Farrell might just be your guy. Then you have yourselves the other conversation to have about Lane Hutson too, because when it comes to Hutson, I mean, we've made so many videos about the guy, you don't need me to tell you more about him. This season, he played in the NCAA, he was phenomenal, 48 points, 39 games played. We talk about how Sean Farrell was 4th overall in the league in scoring, well, Lane Hutson was 7th. He had the same point production as Luke Hughes with more goals, and all in all, I mean, Lane Hutson had himself a debut rookie season in the NCAA for the ages, where he just did all these crazy things that's actually so difficult to, like, quantify, you know? Like, we talked about how he broke these records. Brian Leetch. We talked about Brian Leetch. We talked about other historical defensemen who have been so phenomenal and how Lane Hutson outproduced them all. Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Luke Hughes, of course, Zach Werenski. Hutson was better than all of these guys when he was an 18-year-old in the NCAA. And it's kind of nuts because, like, this is not terribly surprising if you acknowledge the point production he had in the US NTDP from last year, because you gotta remember, he was the top producing defenseman in a single season that program's history has ever seen too. So the fact that he went out there and did the same thing just in the NCAA a year later should not be surprising, but it is, because the Canadiens got this guy in the second round. He's only 5'10". He's 5'10 now. He was 5'8 earlier, so good on him for growing. Man, I wish I could grow too at 18 years old. But either way, Lane Hutson suited up for Team USA at the World Under-20s, so the World Juniors. He had 4 points in 7 games played. Now he's heading over to the World Championship team, and because he was so good against NCAA competition for most of the year, I really don't think he's going to have any problems producing, especially with a team that boasts the likes of Sean Farrell and Luke Tuck too. Of course, I'm being kind of sarcastic here. The team isn't really all that great on paper, but with players like Farrell and Hutson that are debatably borderline NHL talents anyway, you might be looking at a pretty good winning formula here. Now, there are some other conversations we could have about other players on the team. Of course, we could talk about Garland because I'm a Canucks fan. We could talk about the goaltending. We could talk about Carter Mazur too, but at the end of the day, this is what I think is the best looking chance for Canadiens fans to get some experienced viewings of some of the top prospects in their system. Like, I can't stress this enough. Go out there, watch these games, watch Sean Farrell, watch Lane Hutson, see if they develop any chemistry, see if they're put in the same power play, and see if any of that sort of success could carry over into what we could see for the next few years of Canadiens hockey, because ultimately you want to see these guys build up that link. You want to see these guys be able to build off of each other because their gameplay, it's pretty similar. They were both top NCAA guys. Sean Farrell is very good at playmaking and just producing. You have Lane Hutson with the vision, offensive awareness, IQ, passing ability that makes him so elite when it comes to that point production that I'm kind of looking forward to just seeing this team by itself. Sure, Team Canada is going to have themselves a go, but that team's got Tyler Myers on their squad, so who knows how desperate and how bad they're going to be. But either way, thoughts in the comment section below about Lane Hutson and Sean Farrell dominating the NCAA and then heading over to the World Championships. Let me know your opinions about what you think these guys are going to be able to accomplish. Do you think Lane Hutson is going to have an easy job at producing points? Do you think Sean Farrell is going to have an easy job as well? I hope you enjoyed this footage of Charles 99, and bye.